Hello, everyone. With a rapidly growing audience, Jim and I wanted to take a moment and reintroduce ourselves. So today we're going to rebroadcast his intro episode. We hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. I'm Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts. We're a local independent insurance agency that specializes in you.
And I'm Jim Floyd. I'm the owner of Ascent Total Performance. We are a physical therapy, performance training, and wellness center that focuses on providing expert level one-on-one care to all of our patients.
I'm so excited to share that this is episode number 1, and we're going to spend this episode talking to someone that I'm just so thrilled to get to lead a podcast with, someone that I see as a mentor, a friend, and just an amazing business owner. Every time I'm in his facility, it's just an honor, Jim, to get to interview you today and to learn a little bit more about what's ticking up there, what's going on, and I'm honestly probably going to write down more notes than I ever have.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. That's you're way too kind with what you said. I appreciate that. So I'm excited about being able to do this podcast and be the first guest on this podcast. I'm really passionate about the way that we both lead our companies and how we want to approach things. And so I think it's just a really exciting thing for us to be able to do.
They're going to be drawn in with you, and then they'll have to listen to me in the second episode. But you're definitely that starting focus that's going to get us an audience, you know? It's very important. So, Jim, as I said, our viewers will soon know this is an honor to get to just learn a little bit more about you, your family, your business. So tell me, I don't think that you grow up wanting to be a physical therapist, and if you did, that maybe explains a lot. But tell me a little bit more about how you got here.
So I actually started with getting an advertising degree for my undergrad and worked in that industry for a little while, and it was cool, but I always felt like there was something missing, and I wanted to be able to really help people. And then looking back on my life, even from childhood, that's always been something where I wanted to be involved in things and I wanted to be able to help people with whatever was going on. And so the more that I thought about it, I knew I wanted to go into something medicine to be able to help from a health perspective. And the more I did research, the more I found that physical therapy really was the big thing that I felt like I would be able to make the most impact and enjoy being able to do that too. So that's what I chose to pursue. And so graduated from school in 2009 and was fortunate to work at several different places in town here in Columbia, South Carolina, and learned a lot in both places. But it was ultimately a thing of my personality's always been where I'm very independent. I want to be able to do things the way that I would like to do them. And I've been passionate about being able to do things in a way that I felt was the best. And so ultimately that led to me wanting to open up my own business. And so over the course of my career, I felt like I had attained the building blocks to be able to do that. And so I started up my first business in 2016, and we were fortunate to grow with that. Made plenty of mistakes along the way. We're looking back on it now, almost 7 years later. I definitely realized that I had no idea what I was doing at that point. I thought I did, but we're looking back now, you see that, gosh, there are so many different mistakes made. I was just barely hanging on.
So let's say this really quick to our viewers. Let's rewind it 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and listen to that again, and then go look this guy up on Google. And if you're asking yourself, am I ready? Do I have what it takes? Just know that if you have a purpose, if you have a passion, you're going to make a way. You're going to find a way. And that's just so beautiful. So spend some time rewinding that, listening to it, and just motivate yourself, because you would never know that, speaking to Jim. And I love that vulnerability. But just wanted to get to our audience there for a moment and tell them to really take that in and digest that. So Jim, you run an amazing business. I'm going to let you again state the name of the business. Let us know what sets you apart. You have the opportunity now to create, to be that leader that you wanted to be. And so what sets your business apart from the competition in our community?
Our business name is Ascent Total Performance. And so we encompass a lot of different health things. Our primary focus is physical therapy, but we also really, really believe in that every patient needs to be treated as a whole. And so the way we want to be able to do that is, I've seen it in the course of my healthcare journey, and we see it so much with our patients, that our number one thing is vast majority of patients are not listened to, they're not cared for in the current medical system. We have doctor visits where we go in and we see them for 5 minutes and it's in and out. Let's get some medication for different things. Rarely do we have these relationships with our providers to where we can really kind of dive deep and find a root cause of what's going on, or really make a patient feel valued in what they're doing and valued and listened to with what they have going on. And so I think that's the biggest thing that we need to see change within healthcare. And my view of that is, who better to do that than me and our staff?
That's beautiful.
That is the big passion thing that we have within our company, is we want to be able to, the people that show that there is a better way to do that and to be that change. It's one thing to talk about it, but we need to be able to be that change. And so that's what we focus on with all of our staff. And we have such a great staff. We're able to have the time with each patient. So we only see one patient at a time. The industry standard for our industry is seeing 3 to 4.
Wow.
Especially when in an outpatient setting. And so when people come into our office, I tell them when they come in, for better, for worse, you are stuck with me for an hour. And I'm going to listen to, and I'm going to focus exactly on what you have going on, and you're going to have my full attention for that hour. And that's what we try to do with all of our practitioners that we have as part of the business. And so I view my job now as the owner and the leader of the company is to be able to put our staff in the best positions to be able to do that. And that's the thing that makes me excited. It's not, I still enjoy treating patients, but it's more about, my funnest thing is I get to watch all of my other practitioners grow and blossom in these roles and see them be excited about making these big differences in people's lives. That's just a really cool thing.
Well, so you bring it up. That was a little few questions down, but go ahead and dive into team. What I'll say before we talk about team is, you can see Ascent does not compromise. I mean, I want to wear your shirt. You've got an incredible logo. You've got a great website. You've got great marketing. You guys are all over the community. And so not only is that same client, that same patient focus so important, but man, you guys look good while you're doing it. I mean, I've never been to a medical facility where I'm like, man, I really want to get some swag while I'm here. And I remember when I first met you, I thought you might have been a pro golfer. You know, you had on all the swag. You guys teach the golf clinics and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I should ask for his autograph yet. Got to figure out who this guy is. But it's just something that you don't settle. And I think that's really neat. But talking about your team, I have personally seen so many of your team reach heights that they probably didn't imagine for themselves. I know that students, their dream is to come and intern for your facility. How amazing is that? And then your team, the way that you focus, the way that you're intentional about your meetings, you know, the book Traction, which you and I are nerds over, to see you implement that, and then to spend time, because you've passed me on to a different member of your team. And at first I was a little nervous, but man, just to see how amazing they are, it's a testament to me to who you are. And so talk to me a little bit more about your team and how you embody a true leader.
Thank you for those comments. That's been my goals the whole time. I never want it to be about me. And ideally, I want it to be about every practitioner we have, every executive we have. And the biggest thing I want to focus on with that is the ability to provide the environment and provide that, whether it's coaching or support, for all of our staff to be the best that they can be within their scope of practice, within their job, but also the best human they can be too. And so we want to be able to provide support for that as well. My nickname within our company is the Clinic Dad. It's a joke, but actually I really like kind of having that be my role. And that's what I view myself as. I'm almost 43 now, so hopefully people still think that's pretty young. But it's also something too where the vast majority of our staff are at least 10 years younger than me. And so I do have a little bit more life experience than most. and being able to be a resource for them, whether it's a clinical resource of we're going to learn how to do things better, and this is how we're able to create an alliance with our patients, and these are the skills that we're able to use, to how do we handle like when we're going to buy our first house, and being able to provide support there with the different questions with that. So we try to look at it as, I know that for our company to be the best company it can be, and for all of our staff to be the best that they can be, we need to be able to give them that support and be able to provide a work environment to where they know that I have their back and that we're going to do the things that are going to be the best things for their development. And both from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint, and looking at it holistically, just like we look at with all of our patients. I want that development with all of our staff, just like we're going to dive deep into seeing what we can do for every patient that we see. My job is to be able to do that for all of our staff and to make sure I'm putting them in the best positions they can be to succeed.
That's incredible. That's the exact type of leader over an organization that people so desperately want these days. You know, a lot of people nowadays, there's so much more than money that drives folks. We live in a completely different world these days. And I think being in an environment, being in a culture means so much. It's, you know, I tell everyone, no one wants to be at work, but doesn't it feel good when Friday gets here and you're like, wow, like I had no clue that the week had flown by that quickly. Yeah. You know, we spend so much time at work, and man, props to you for creating an environment where your team, you know, can not only grow, they can succeed and accomplish their goals, but it's something that you get to see, like you said, is that, you know, job dad is that role to get to be there for them, and more than just their work, but in their lives. That's an incredible thing. And so I want to talk a little bit more about not work dad, but home dad. I know you're an awesome father. You're married. You've got a wonderful family. I want to speak a little bit more about how your family plays a role in the business and your growth as a human being as well.
Yeah. So been married almost 15 years to wonderful wife, Nora, and have two beautiful daughters, Eleanor and Evelyn. That's been the, anybody who has kids and is in a great relationship really knows how I feel with that love there. And it's really something that it's hard to express. So early on in our marriage, Nora always knew that my goal was to do my own thing. And she knew that's my personality. That's what my career goal was. I remember we were sitting in a restaurant when I was working for a different company, and we went out to dinner one night. We were talking about just different things and career and all that. And I just remember telling her, I was like, I think it's time to be able to do this. A lot of times you would anticipate a thing of, okay, it's a little nervous about this. We want to make sure we're in a good position. I didn't get any of that. All I got was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, what a great feeling to have that support. We're just ready to go. It doesn't matter. It's a huge risk to do those things, but having somebody that is going to be supportive of that and understands that, but also just the trust. I knew I was going to be successful, and having that trust from your spouse with that. And then of course that gets parlayed into when I opened up the first business, my girls were 3 and 4. And so, they don't know what's going on. They just know that daddy has this new thing and these cool shirts and all these different things. And he goes. And so they would always ask me about, so what do I do? And my response was always, I get to go help people all day. And so I remember going to how they have like Daddy Day at kindergarten, and they make a little video. And so my eldest daughter, Eleanor, was up on the screen, and they were doing a little interview about each girl's dad. And they asked her, so what does your daddy do? And she goes, my daddy goes and helps people. And I was like, man, that's really cool. Seeing them involved and them understanding kind of what's going on, especially now. So they're 11 and 10 now. And so they understand a little bit more of the business aspects of things like that. And so having them be invested in it, like they've made commercials for me on their little iPads and different things like that. And there's drawings all over our clinic that they've made and put up. And my younger daughter the other day asked this summer she can just come to work and just hang out with us and all day. And I was like, okay, well, you can come in, we'll put you to work and you can help clean the tables and do all that stuff. She's like, yeah, that just sounds like it's a fun thing to do. And so they get to see that part of it. But then, it's not all roses and it's not all positive stuff too. There's definitely, when you're working for someone, you don't have to deal with the rest of the things involved in running a business. There's all the other things that once it is truly yours, you have that responsibility not only for the family at work, you're responsible for all these people's jobs, keeping the business going, advertising, HR stuff, all those different type things. So it is a really hard thing to be able to separate that from leaving that at work to not bringing those things home. And so what I've found, and that there's been ups and downs throughout my career with that, and great times where we're able to celebrate, and then other times where you're coming home and exhausted and you don't have that time with your kids. And then one of the things we'll talk about in a later episode is how do we handle those things? How do we handle the guilt of, man, I'm missing out on this time with my kids because I'm really committed to trying to build this thing and I'm doing this for my family. But a lot of times what we see is that we think on that end of it, I'm doing all these things, but maybe the perception of that is that you're at work all the time. You're trying to build this stuff, and that communication isn't there as much as it should be. And those are things that's been an up and down struggle. And I think that's going to be a normal thing for most entrepreneurs, especially when you're passionate about what you're doing, you want to be part of it. But that's one thing. Now we have a staff member who will be leaving at some point to open up his own place in a different city. And I am so happy for him. I want to encourage him with that. That's the number one thing I've told him. I was like, absolutely do not make the mistakes that I have made of sacrificing your time with your family to try to build this. You got to make sure you have that balance. And I'm adamant about anybody with that to make sure that they're doing those things too.
Absolutely. I think one of the clearest things that I've heard from you in this moment is communication. Whether it's with your team, whether it's with your family, communication is key just so that everyone understands they're on the same page. A lot of times, me and my personality, I will just start talking and someone's like, where is this coming from? And I'm like, I expect everyone to know where I am and what's going on. And really, if you had to live in my head with me, it's a place you wouldn't want to be. So I should be happy they don't. But that's one of those things is that really I pulled from that personally. A spouse is so important. Having that person that is able to champion you and believes in you is so humongous. And a family that supports you will allow you to accomplish so much more. And so if that's you and you're listening to this, be that champion for that significant other, for the friends in your life, be that encourager, but also understand that communication is key. So sounds like you really understand that, I'm sure, through trial and error, and we're still growing. So we'll go deeper on how to overcome adversity as a business owner in the future, but I want to hit on really two things just as people are getting to know you. You've had some family adversity as well as business adversity, and I wanted to see if you can maybe hint on those and help the audience to understand you as you've grown over these past 7 years?
As we've grown as a company and moved into those general challenges of growth and having time for everything too, life doesn't stop with that as well. And so we've experienced some different health issues within our family that were pretty serious things that are definitely multiple sleepless nights. And, you add that on to just a general stress of running a business and handling all that, that just adds to it. With those adversities that we all experience, it's just part of life. Being able to know that how do we handle those things when those things come along at the same time. And so I've got some experience with that, and that impacts the days of how do I still bring it to work. Those kind of things just add that extra layer of challenge to what we're going to do. And then, so we have those personal adversity type things, whether it's truly a personal ourselves, one of our family members, or even friends that are going through different things too. And then we have the other side of it too, where we went through a business transition with our company. So when we founded a company back in 2016, we founded a different company with some partners. And, ultimately we were able to split up a partnership and move in totally separate directions and have totally different companies. So essentially my process with that was going from a business that we had established and had going for essentially 6 years and marketed, grown, really established ourselves as premier providers within the community, to basically doing a total reset and totally new company with that.
And that's another thing that I strongly respect, is that I've heard you say nothing but good things about those business partners, about, you want the best for them. You've gone different directions. They've now gone into competition in a sense, but at the end of the day, you live with an abundance mindset. And I think that's one of the things that, there are going to be times where you're hurt. There are going to be times where you feel some pain, whether it's personal or in business. But I think that it's ultimately just having that mindset of the glass is half full, the mindset of we're going to win anyway, and being willing to start over whenever you have a design that you see is going to best fit the customer, going to best fit the patient. And I think that you've absolutely done that in these seasons of life. It's been a pleasure to not only see you grow in that, but to be able to still be a friend during that, and honestly grow as an individual, seeing the way that you've handled those adversities.
When it ultimately comes down to it, is we want to be able to be fulfilled with what we're doing and with how we're approaching things, and we want to enjoy what we're doing too. And when there's some misalignment in how we're doing things and how we want to approach things and ultimate goals, there's sometimes change is necessary. That's essentially like how we want to be. And that's what we need to be able to have the courage to be able to do those things too. My number one thing throughout all this stuff is I wanted to make sure that everyone was taken care of, and all of our staff, everything was as transparent as possible, and all of our staff were going to be supported, and no one was worried about losing their job, anything like that. And ultimately, I think we were able to create that change and really be able to focus exactly on what we want to be about related to that.
So Jim, we've talked about family, we've talked about business, and how they really, there's no such thing as work-life balance in a sense. It's all just life, and it's a life that you get to create, that you get to live, and one that you are taking full advantage of. I want to talk about education, teaching, coaching. You have the ability to not only coach professionals in your industry to be better business owners and better practitioners, but also you have the opportunity to teach and educate at USC with a business course. And so I want to start off with a little bit about the business course, but then dive into coaching as well.
It's kind of funny. My whole family were teachers. So both my parents were teachers. My brother is a teacher. And so I think it was naturally assumed that I would be going that route. So I'm like the black sheep of the family with going into healthcare. But it kind of ends up being where I'm a teacher too, whether it's to my patients, to our staff, but then also having the opportunity to be able to go and teach within the physical therapy program at USC and be able to teach these students about the business principles that they need and what they need to be aware of as they get out in their careers. So we try to approach that class as not only just you learn about how health insurance works and how do we get paid and how do we navigate through that starting out in our career and all that stuff. I try to approach this as I've thought about everything that I didn't know when I first came out of school from a business standpoint, from how all the behind the scenes stuff works, because we don't get that anywhere else in our programs across the board in physical therapy. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to be a resource for those students when they come out. And so we talk about all of those mechanics of how do we get paid, whether it's through a direct pay scenario or if we're billing someone's insurance. How does all that stuff work? But then we also talk about finance principles. We talk about how do we take care of ourselves from a mental health standpoint? How do we handle stress? All those different type things. Those are skills I did not have at all coming out of school. So I want to be able to expose all the students to a lot of those principles. And so some of it is basically coming back to they need to know what their worth is too. Mm-hmm. So it enables them, to gives them the skills to be able to negotiate salary.
Amen.
All those different type things. And the more awareness they have with that, the better off they're going to be. It's kind of funny now. We have usually every year, once the graduating class gets to that point, they'll go out and they'll start navigating through job offers and all that stuff. I usually get 1 or 2 emails from each class of, hey, Jim, what do you think about this offer? Or I'm going to interview. What should I do? How can I negotiate my salary? What's okay for me to ask? All those different type things.
And that's a glass half full mentality, because all of these people are going to become competition in a sense. Yeah. But here's your mindset of, I'm going to educate. I'm going to really, I call it school of hard knocks. I'm going to teach them the real world. And because there's one thing that's an education and there's one thing real world experience. And you're helping them to gain some real world experience through education. And so important. And well, now let's change focus for a moment. Let's talk about coaching. You have the ability to coach other business owners through a coaching program. Yeah. Speak with me for a moment on that and how you got into that and how you've been able to help other businesses. Yeah,
that's been a really fun thing for me too, because I enjoy getting to help people, whether it's a patient or in this case, fellow business owners. The physical therapy profession especially is notorious for, we learn a lot about how to help people and how our patients. We don't know anything about how to actually run a business. I feel like I've been fairly successful with that, and I'm always learning every day. But being able to help other owners be able to navigate through some of the challenges that they have. And whether it's with handling staff, how do we optimize our revenue and efficiencies, all those different type things. I'm very much a structural processes type person. And I get to sit down with a fellow business owner and we can talk about what are the struggles they're having. How can we address those? And I've talked with everyone from an established business that's just struggling a little bit with different leadership things to people that want to do a startup and being able to, okay, these are the things you have to do, like compliance wise. This is how you set up your LLC, all those different type things of being able to just help somebody. And I view it as I get to be able to make an impact on these. And when we talk about showing that there's a better way to do things, I get to extrapolate that out to these other businesses. And I'm seeing these people that I work with, they're excited and they're passionate about their ability to provide really quality care to these patients. Maybe they need a little bit of help with just making sure it's a profitable thing for them, or being effective, being able to pay their staff what they're worth.
That's incredible, man. Really incredible. And I want to just finish this off with something that's going to help. Our goal is to help the listener, help the audience. And they've hopefully learned a lot about you today and the impact that you're going to have as they continue listening to this podcast. But I want to ask you, is there a leader or a book or something that has just really meant a lot to you that you could share with the audience?
There are so many resources out there. And I know, Jeremy, you and I have talked about it a lot. We can sit and nerd out on all kinds of different business books for hours and hours. I think some of the ones that have made the biggest impacts on me are, there's actually a podcast that I listen to a lot. It's the Entree Leadership Podcast. And they do a great job of just talking about all these different topics. It's always inspiring for me. From a book standpoint, there are so many things, like a book like Traction is a great one. The Art of Leadership is another one I liked a lot. And then more mechanical things of like a Profit First book. And especially for someone starting out, being able to have those things at top of mind as you're setting things up and being able to start a business from that mindset is a game changer for those things and to keep you focused on those different type things. Those are ones that come to mind. There are so many great resources out there.
That's great. Well, guys, I hope you have been able to see why I was so excited, why I've taken notes here on so many great things that Jim brings to the table. You are truly a perfect co-host for this podcast. Purpose is a motivator. You're driven by purpose. You are a purpose-minded leader, and I cannot wait to grow personally and to see our community grow from the insight that you're going to bring. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your story, and we look forward to growing together. I can tell everyone that I've known you 4 or 5 years now, and I got to experience you as a friend, growing in a business relationship, and you are what you are. There's not this facade of I'm going to preach this and then I'm going to practice this. What you see is what you get. And I love the vulnerability, and I just cannot wait to see what the future brings and what our viewers are able to gain from your insight. So this will not always be an opportunity for you to have a selfish plug, but I want to give you that opportunity. Hopefully people here are just, they're maybe messing up their knee just so they can come spend some time with you. But for those who really have a concern, someone that really has a need for a physical therapist, for a business that really cares and has compassion, what does your ideal customer look like? How can they get in touch with you? And ultimately, how can they work with the best in the business?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. So our customers and our patients are those that are seeking a different level of care, that maybe they've been through the whole medical system where they've just been passed off from one practitioner to the next, never really found that root cause of what's going on with them. Those are the ones that we excel with. We want those patients to come in that want to get better. We're going to help guide them to that. We're going to challenge them. And we're going to give them the amount of attention that they need to be able to really kind of not only get back to where they were, but to get better than what they were. And that's our focus. And it's looking at that from all different angles. We want to be able to find that root cause of what's going on and then develop a comprehensive plan for being able to get someone to where they want to be, whether it's the high school athlete who wants to get back on their field, to the young professional who is starting out in their job and they're having to sit at a desk all day, and all of a sudden now they have neck and back pain. Those are things that are right up our alley. And then we also have our retirees who have new grandkids. They have back pain with holding that baby or being able to get down on the floor and play with their grandkids, up to as we get up older in age too, of being safe and still being able to be independent and working on that balance. We have experts for each one of those things. And we all have these different niches of how we want to treat people and the people that we like. So it's even neurological things like Parkinson's and different things like that. We have specialties in all of those things because ultimately it's about serving our community to the best of our ability.
And where can they find your facility?
So we're located at 2829 Millwood Avenue, downtown Columbia. Our phone number is 803-851-3506. Our website is achieveatp.com, and you can find all the information on that. So please feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text. We're happy to help however we can, even if it's just answering questions over the phone. Our goal is to make it where people are independent and they don't need to see us for a year, 2 years, anything like that, is to be able to give all of our patients the appropriate tools to be able to work with themselves, and we were able to be the guides that help with that. Also, I always want to be able to help anybody that I can. So if you're an entrepreneur that is out there and this spoke to you, or you have questions about things, whether it's healthcare or not, I'm happy to help whoever I can. So please shoot me an email. My email is Jim, Jim, at achieveatp.com. We're always happy to help with whatever we can.
Thank you, Jim. That's another example of just a servant leader. So I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you very much. I love getting to share my story of all of our growth and how I've evolved as a business owner and leader. And I'm really excited, Jeremy, to get to hear your story on the next episode.
Guys, we cannot wait to continue growing together in this community. We'll see you on the next episode of Purpose Over Profit.